So if you've ever seen in TV and movies, they always, more often than not, describe the tortured artist. And there's a reason behind it, but it might not be exactly what you think it is. It is because the process of creating our art actually leaves us in physical pain. That's probably the torment and anguish that you're seeing portrayed on the screen as some kind of mental distress. But in that vein, the physical pain can also lead to mental anguish, because if you're in pain all the time, then you're not exactly producing your best work, and that can actually start to aggravate your stress. So welcome to the Creative Cynergy podcast, where wellness and creativity meet in synergy to help you get healthier and more productive. I am Coach Cyn, and I will be your guide on this journey to whole body health. And today we're going to be talking about the hidden pain behind the creative process, how that affects your overall creativity, some of the pain points and challenges that you experience while you're trying to develop your projects, and also, of course, recovery tips that you can use to get yourself into a better state of flow. So if you've ever seen in TV and movies, they always, more often than not, describe the tortured artist. And there's a reason behind it, but it might not be exactly what you think it is. It is because the process of creating our art actually leaves us in physical pain. That's probably the torment and anguish that you're seeing portrayed on the screen as some kind of mental distress. But in that vein, the physical pain can also lead to mental anguish, because if you're in pain all the time, then you're not exactly producing your best work, and that can actually start to aggravate your stress. So we're going to be exploring the physical toll of creativity and practical recovery tips to help you better produce, which is what this is all about, combining health and wellness together so you can optimize your mind, body, and muse, as I say. So in the creative process, it is essentially a double-edged sword. There is the passion of it, and then there's also the pain that comes with it. Pain can come from different levels. Today we're talking about the physical pain, but let's dive into the pleasure of it first and foremost. Otherwise, why would we be pursuing these kinds of things if we were not driven to do so? Because at least for me, when I'm in a state of flow, writing or creating projects such as the podcast here, or other projects that I like to dive into, that creative flow is an outlet to let your imagination wander. It's ingrained in your body, whatever talent that you possess. More often than not, especially at least for me, if I'm not creating, I don't feel right. Something feels off, So when you're in that state of flow and it brings you that kind of joy, other things can often run away from you, and that includes your physicality, your nutrition, and your energy. You will work to all hours into the night just to get the one thing done, and you'll do it over and over and over again, because essentially, we become perfectionists. You know who you are. Within that, the joy of the creative process, there's a hidden reality, and it's the other side of the sword that I was talking about, and that comes from the pain aspect of it. There's long hours sitting in a static position, whether you're sitting in a chair, you're hunched over a desk, or if you're a tattoo artist, you're hunched over a person. More often than not, craftspeople are sitting on the floor. And all of those start to round the spine, tighten the shoulders, and mess with the hips. Also lead to, like I said, you're working all hours of the night. It can lead to irregular sleep patterns, which messes with your energy levels. You're working all the time trying to balance your creative outlet with, and perhaps this creative outlet you're trying to build into like a side hustle or a business of your own. And you're also trying to balance a 9-to-5 and a family. And so it's a lot of things taking different tolls on you. And this is what I've found throughout my experience dealing with different creative thinkers is we don't eat. We don't eat properly is what I'm actually getting at. It's because, you're working, you're running around, you just grab a bag of chips, you grab a bag of greasy easy through the drive-through, you skip breakfast, you're sucking down coffee. All of those things are going to start to negatively affect you over time. And those are the physical pain points that I'm talking about. And nutrition leads into physical energy, as does sleep and so forth. They all combine, which is the culmination of why this is called Cynergy, mind and body together. So let's talk about the invisible strain that's common among writers, designers, musicians, even all creative thinkers and types. Like I said, the first one is neck and back pain. You're hunched over, you're in that fixed position for hours on end. You don't actually start to think about it until it's too late. And over time, that actually starts to develop into really bad ergonomics for your back, and it will lead to other problems. Once your spine's out of whack, it can pull the whole body out of whack. And it's even just little areas. Say your hips are, misaligned from sitting awkwardly, that pulls on the shoulder, and it affects the way that you walk. So it can actually lead to and develop further larger problems down the road if they're not taken care of. Repetitive stress injury is another thing. It's from what that essentially means is repetitive motions. And it take writing, for example, because your hands are fixed on the keyboard typing. And this goes for anybody who has to do data entry or coding, stuff like that. If your hands are in a fixed position like that, especially if you're not supporting the wrist, these repetitive motion injuries can really start to affect up into your fingers. You feel numbness into your elbow and so forth. So it's essentially any type of repetitive movement that you're doing grinds down the joints and the body over time. Wrist and hand issues can actually develop into further problems like carpal tunnel syndrome. Tendonitis especially is a big one. That's where the muscles become inflamed just from repetitive use. But again, if you start to put in countermeasures, this is something that you can counteract. Another thing that we often see, especially when you're in front of a computer all day, or we're always in front of screens these days, is eye strain. And you may not even notice it. You might not think it's a big deal at first. You're going throughout your day, and you rub your eyes or whatever. That's eye strain. And over time, staring at these screens, it can really start to mess up your vision. You want to be very aware of the amount of screen time that you are taking in, and as it relates to your creative outlet or also your job. So one of the reasons I wanted to start delving into some of these aspects, especially for my fellow authors and other creators, first of all, nobody was doing it. Like I've said before, there's trainers out there who are training, or mobility experts. Nobody's really honing in on this specific area, and we have very specific needs as creators because of the way that we work. In my personal story, I was working a 9-to-5 job, and I found myself seated in front of a computer for over 8 hours a day, and I would start slumping down throughout the day, because I was just getting really physically exhausted, stuck in this rigid position. And your body just goes into this relaxed state that is not actually relaxed. It's actually doing more damage than good. When I was doing this kind of work, I started to notice a lot of really bad pain in my hip flexors. So every day they would get almost, the word that I would want to use there is inflamed. That's what it felt like. They were tight. They felt like they were on fire. I was constantly stretching the area, and it did no good at all. The only thing that started to help me was to start doing mobility movements before I went into work and after. And the other thing that also started to help is to actually change my training style. So I would start to hone in on strengthening the areas around the hip flexors so that they weren't taking on all the work of holding my body upright, which was essentially, pulling my pelvis forward and causing a lot of strain in the low back as well. So what I started to focus on was not just mobility in the morning and improving my flexibility, but also, like I said, strengthening the core muscles, the glute muscles, and really specific smaller muscles in that area to keep it strong and stable throughout the day. So I didn't wind up, getting into this weird S shape as the workday went on. So as an athlete and an author, this is what I've come to realize. The creative process and the way that we go about doing it can cause the similar wear and tear as an athlete training. So essentially, and this is where the entire creative synergy idea came from, is that you want to start combining health and wellness with creativity, so that you are healthier and more productive, like I said, because if your body and mind are healthier, it's going to produce more creative flow, and that's exactly what you want to get. So you want to start not so much training as an athlete, but using some of those things that athletes use to become more productive and have more creative output. And so, because the mind-body connection is so strong, when your mental health is off and your mental wellness is not working, it affects you physically. And the opposite is also true. When your physicality is down, it can affect you mentally. So just small daily actionable tips that you start to incorporate into your daily life are going to build momentum, and it's going to help you to start to establish your patterns in a healthier way that you can be more productive. If you don't start trying to address some of these things, the stress and the physical pain points are going to take over, and it's going to really start affecting your creative output to the point where it will start going into a vicious circle, because you'll feel pain, so you won't want to produce, and then you're going to feel stress and probably guilt because you're not producing, and it's going to just go around and around and around. Whereas if you start to try to tackle some of these things, and you start to feel a little bit of momentum, like I said, and feel better about yourself and feel more creative, it's going to put you in a much different state than if you were just sitting around like complaining about the pain. So there's always something that you can do about it, rather than just say, I'm in pain, I quit, or I'm stressed out, I quit. Let's start to, like I said, incorporate little things daily that you can start to make changes on, that will you'll build momentum towards attaining exactly what you want, which is, health, creativity, productivity, time balance, all the things. So how do we go about making some of these changes? Well, like I said, it's really simple. I'm not here to overwhelm you. I'm not trying to throw a full fitness program at you. What we're going to do is start with just small, little actionable tips that you can start taking measures into your own hands and start to feel better about your day-to-day. Here's one tip I'm going to have you do during your workday. If you find yourself staring at that screen for too long, you're going to enact the 20-20-20 rule. So every 20 minutes while you're working, you're going to look 20 feet away, focusing on something else for 20 seconds. This is going to take the shift of your eyes off of the screen, and it's going to establish a new focal point. And don't ask me how it works. I'm not an optometrist, but this is going to change the perspective of your eye. So it's not just staring at these screens all day, and it's going to help. It's going to help with the eye health is essentially what it's going to do. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to counteract the static positioning that creatives find themselves in, because we're hunched over all day. The shoulders start to round, the neck starts to hurt. Every 30 to 60 seconds, take a stretching break. And you don't even have to get up if you don't want to. It's helpful that if you do, though, because you want to stretch out the lower half as well. But make sure you get in there with the shoulders, the neck, the back. Just try to stay loose and pliable instead of in that fixed position all day, because once the blood starts flowing from these stretches, you'll feel a lot better and you'll be ready to get back into your workload. On top of that, the next big mistake that a lot of workers make, especially in an office environment, is the ergonomics of your desk are not set up right. So what you want to do is you want to have yourself a very good chair that's ergonomic. It supports your lower back. It's set up in a way so that your thighs are parallel, your feet are touching the floor. If you need to, you can get a footrest and put that underneath you so that your legs are elevated and they are not dragging on your hip flexors, because that's going to pull everything forward. Make sure that the monitor's at a proper height so that you're not straining your neck looking up and down. Make sure you take care of your wrists so you don't start feeling the tendonitis or the strain in those areas by using a wrist pad, a mouse pad, or a pen and a stylus. And also, while you're working, just throw in some quick mobility movements throughout the day. You can stretch your wrists out, you can stretch your elbows out, neck, move that around. Just make sure that you're getting some kind of movement, because the mobility actually will soothe your joints. It's sort of like putting WD-40 on a rusty, door hinge or something like that. It's going to lubricate your joints and keep you pliable and flexible so that you are not starting to tense up and cause other problems. I've always said, if you give the body what it needs, it will reward you by repairing itself. And in that respect, if you need more help and you want to get more in depth with your wellness journey, my latest guide, Staying Fit While You Sit, will cover all of these aspects that we talked about in this podcast. It's available on Amazon right now for download on ebook. The print book will be coming out soon. So if you're looking to level up and you want to really start honing in on your work-life balance, Staying Fit While You Sit is exactly that. It is built for authors, but any creative type, or if you sit for work, this guide is for you. As a gentle reminder, care for your body, because creativity can cost. It will take a toll on you if you are not honed in on giving your body what it needs. I know that we are in a fast-paced world and it's all go, go, go. But if you don't start taking care of these things now, your health is going to be the only thing that you can focus on later on, because it's going to develop into bigger problems. Capitalize on this moment in time to start making these adjustments and avoiding those problems later on down the road. And like I said, you'll feel so much better and more creative because of it. So for all my writers and fellow creative thinkers out there, just remember that creativity should nourish you. It shouldn't detract from you. And if it is, you're probably in the wrong vocation, or you just need simple tips and tricks to help you stay in flow and to optimize your mind, body, and muse. Like I said, my guide, Staying Fit While You Sit, is available now. You can also download my free Healthy Habits Toolkit if you just want a little bit of a teaser to help you get started on your road to wellness. But as always, I will be here on the Creative Cynergy podcast to bring you more tips and tricks to help you stay in a healthy and creative mindset. If you found this valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. The more people that hear this messaging and that I can help, the better. So please share with your fellow creatives and let them know about the Creative Cynergy podcast and some of the guides that I talked about. Until next time, this is Coach Sin with Creative Cynergy. And as always, stay healthy and live your dreams.